everyone, put out sound. Welcome to part 9 of the car modelling techniques guide. So, we've got this part and part 10, and we're all done. Had to break it up because I had over an hour's worth of footage, and in part 10 I want to include a little reveal for it as well. The car's done, it's over there, but I ain't showing it yet. You'll see it in the next part after this. So, we're dealing with all the finishing touches. So today we're going to deal with painting up and installing all the lights, exterior lights, putting all the mesh grills in, gluing the glasswork on the interior, getting the window wipers on, so on and so forth. And then in part 10 we'll come back and finish it off with the antennas and a few other bits and bobs as well. And like I said, I'll do a final reveal in the next video too, and I've got a special announcement about it as well. So there we go. So yeah, like I say, finishing touches to do. So I hope it's a bit drawn out, but they are important finishing touches. And I know I'll get asked if I don't do it, so I've tried to get it all in there if I can, to show exactly what I've done without waffling on too long. So there we go. So let's get back to it, and let's see where we're at with the Subaru. So this is where we were at last time with the Subaru, and what we're going to start with today is masking off the side repeaters. So there's 2 of them, one on each side. Then need masking off, priming in white, and then painting in orange. There's also the roof pod at the back that needs painting in white too, and I'll cover that in a minute. So we've got some AZU 2mm tape, and we're going to cut off some smaller strips, put them right up to the edge of the repeater, and then go all the way around, and then backfill with Tamiya tape, and then we can spray it without getting any overspray on the car, and then get some orange paint down on it, and that'll simulate the orange lens on the side repeater. So I'm going to speed this up in a minute because it's a little bit boring to watch, but I think you get the gist from watching this. There's a few odd curves on it, so you're going to have to put a couple in on funny angles, but once you get around it, it's fairly simple and straightforward. So the AZU tape is great, really good quality tape. It's up there with Tamiya tape quality. I've had no bleed through, I've had no paint pulling issues. It's just really, really good. And obviously you can get this from umpretail.com, myself and Lee. And it's very reasonably priced as well. I would literally be lost without this stuff. Now, I said that last time in the window masking video. It's just so good and versatile. And with all the different sizes, it makes it very, very useful. And as you can see, just putting a few little bits on the angle to get the front point. And once we've done that, that's it. We're done. You need to repeat that for the other side, obviously. I say, make sure you're all fully burnished down. And when you're happy with that, do the other side, and we can move on to the roof. So with the roof, we've got my punching die set out again, and we've punched out another piece of masking tape. We've gone slightly bigger than what we used for the decal. So I think, off the top of my head, we're about 2.8mm on this one. What we're going to do is going to place that over the top, exactly like we did with the decal really, except this time we're masking it off. So there you go, we line it up. Make sure you detack your tape, obviously. A very, very important step. Burnish it down with a cotton bud. And once you're happy, you can fully mask off the car. Use cling film or whatever other means you like to do, but I used the cling film in the last part, and it's a much quicker way of masking. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our lights. As you can see, we've got a front headlight lens, a lower indicator lens, and the rear light lenses as well. So 6 pieces of glass in total for the lights. The headlights are left clear, the front indicators are going to be painted in clear orange, and the rear lenses are just going to be painted in red, and some part of it left clear. So where the light lenses sit in needs to be painted in silver. You can either use a brush, you can mask an airbrush should you wish, or the easier way to do it is use 1 or 2 of the Molotow liquid chrome pens. These things are fantastic. Even just for this use alone, they are well worth having. So the 2 size of pens I got are 2mm and 1mm. And we're using the 2mm to get the biggest areas covered, as you can see. Try and go over the area once. You might have to pass over it a couple of times though sometimes. Once it dries, you get a nice reflected chrome surface. Once you've gone round with the 2mm one, then grab the thinner 1mm one, and you can get right up to the edge of where the light lens goes. Try not to get any on the bodywork where the lights aren't going to go. If you do, you can wipe it off with a cotton bud and UMP airbrush cleaner, as long as you've 2K'd. Any other clear coats, you're going to have to be very careful with thinners, as they will eat through it. But as you can see, it covers well, and it gives a very, very good effect, and really does look the part. It's quick, easy, and simple. So now we're going to move on to doing the actual glass parts themselves. So like I say, 6 in total. Got 2 for the front lower indicators, 2 for the headlights, and 2 for the rear lenses too. So neat little tip, as we did with the windscreen, you can always use a hot knife to cut them off should you wish. But to be honest, I don't think it's worth doing with these. If you damage the lens at all, you are going to see it. So for me, cut them off, sand them, and buff them is the easiest way to do it. So what I've done here is cut them off and left them on short parts of the sprue. Left them connected for now, and this makes it easier to paint them. We've got Tamiya XF, let me see, it's clear orange and clear red, which I think is X26 and 27. And what we're going to do, we're going to brush paint these on and allow them to dry overnight before we put them on the vehicle. So, giving the bottle a good shake. I have shaker balls in there, and then we're using the lid as our paint receptacle. And we're going to not overly paint it on, but we're going to allow it to pool on. It's the easiest way of painting it, I've found, because with Tamiya paint, unfortunately, unless you thin it with a lacquer thinner, the more you go over it, the more of a mess it makes. So I find to pool it on in the first place is a lot easier to do, and it covers better. So just make sure it's evenly coated all over. Don't get it all over the edges, don't get it over the front. And then, like I say, put it to one side, let it dry overnight, and we will be good to go. So like I say, it's orange on the lower front repeaters, like that. There you go. Job done. Give the brush a quick clean, and then come back and we can do the clear red on the rear lens. So, UMP airbrush cleaner, I have some in a little pocket to one side. Does a great job of cleaning up all the acrylics. Well, all the water-based, alcohol-based acrylics. As you see, in the pots, give it a quick stir, give it a wipe off, and job done. So, X27 clear red, and yeah, X26 clear orange. There you go, told you. Like I said, we're now going to paint the rear lenses. Now, pay attention to your instructions and your box art, because only one part of it is painted red. You need to keep the bottom part clear. There's a clear demarcation all around it, so you can see it. We're going to go right up to the edge without going over, and then exactly the same way we painted those front repeaters, pull it on and let it dry overnight. So you need steady hand, nice and careful. If you do get any paint over that demarcation line, you can use a cocktail stick or toothpick and just gently remove the excess paint. But by careful painting and practice, you'll get used to doing this, and it becomes very, very easy to do over time. There's another way to do it as well. I sadly didn't have them at the time, but Molotow, the people who do the chrome pens, actually make acrylic paint pens as well, and I've literally just picked up the orange and the red. So I might do a review later on and show them in use and see if it will actually work on the clear parts, but this is the way I've always done it, and I do like doing it this way. Another thing I've got recently is some of the Mr. Colour lacquer based clear red and yellow, orange, sorry, and I'll be interested to see how they perform doing this, but this is the tried-tested way, and it works well. I also know a lot of people who also use glass paint as well. Hobby-grade glass paint, clear red, clear orange, clear yellow, etc., etc. A lot of people say that's a good way of doing it too. But like I say, this is why I've always done it, and I find it quick, simple. It dries fairly quickly. Obviously, because you're pulling the paint on, it's going to take a little bit longer to dry, but overnight is fine, and the effect given looks absolutely perfect. With that nice chrome backing, it really does shine through the light lenses. As long as you get a nice, neat demarcation on the lens, they're going to look absolutely spot on. So we'll let these dry overnight, and then we'll come back in a little bit, and I'll show gluing them in place on the model itself. And there we go. Job's a good one. Okay, so now we're on to our mesh for the bonnet vents and the front bumper too. Now, Tamiya very kindly gives you little templates in the instructions, and we've got one there, and a big one in the bumper there. So, the templates and instructions are 1:1 scale for what we need. There's the mesh included with the kit. With the Tamiya decal scissors, we're going to cut out this paper, make sure there's nothing important on the back. So we'll literally cut them out and then cut out the templates to size, pop these pieces on the mesh, and cut them out that way. It's the easiest way of doing it, and it causes a lot less hassle, and it's quick as well. So we're going to concentrate on the bigger one first. Like I say, we're going to cut it out right to the edges very carefully. The Tamiya decal scissors are fantastic, very high quality. I've had this pair of scissors for, my God, about 8 years now. And use them every day for everything, not just decals, trimming paper, cutting anything and everything really, and they've performed flawlessly. They really have. Big fan of the Tamiya tools. I don't think you can really fault them at all. So some neat cutting out. We remove all this template, and then we'll offer it up to the mesh, and holding it carefully, we'll cut around it and get our nice mesh shape cut to size. Obviously, once you've done this once, you can always save them. So if you build a future Subaru, you've got them cut out ready, saving a little bit of time and effort. I tend to say that every time and then throw it out. Always do, always forget. So there we go, we're all cut out neat. Now find a straight edge of the mesh, because it's not always cut straight. So I might take a few attempts to turn it around. There we go. So we're going to offer it up. Get one of the larger straight edges on the back piece, and then carefully cut it out until we're done. So 3 pieces in total. Once these are cut off, we're going to use some CA glue and very carefully stick it in place where they should go. Instructions are nice and clear, they do show where they go, and this shape is perfect and does fit where it's needed. As you can see, there we go, perfect shape. Happy days. So put everything out of the way and grab your instructions. As you see, we're going to put that in the front bumper, so orientated the correct way. Have a look on the model, dry fit it. Make sure it doesn't go over those 2 locating points at the front that hold the chassis in. And on mine, it's absolutely perfect. Superb. We're then going to grab some CA glue and apply a couple of dabs in some places where you can't see it. And that'll do us beautifully. I'm just going to straighten up the very bottom. It's a little bit wonky on this. Like I said, just be aware of the edges because they're not always cut straight. And it does fray from time to time. There we go. Much better fit this time. Happy days. So, one other thing as well, don't forget on this, before you put that mesh in, as you can see, you need to remove the badge surround. I've got a body there that's primed, that's being used for something else, so it doesn't really matter. But on this one, make sure you remove that mounting piece from around the Subaru badge before putting the grill in. I meant to show this earlier and completely forgot. It was only applying the mesh that I suddenly sprung into my mind. I forgot to show it earlier on. As you can see, the cap is stuck in my CA glue, which is a bit of a pain. This is the Rocket, it's the yellow, so is it the Rocket Rapid? I can't remember, I think it is. Cocktail stick, excellent little tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop the mesh in position and pick some strategic points that you won't be able to see from the other side to glue it in place. If you get any glue on the mesh, you can see it. It does look terrible, so try and avoid getting any on areas that can be seen. So the best way of doing this is put a little dab of CA glue on and then roll your cocktail stick off. If you just pull it off, you're going to pull the mesh with you. So I found the best way to do it is a little blob, push it on, roll it back, job's a good one. So we've got 2 either side in the middle, 2 either side at the top. And this will hold it on sufficiently and stop it falling off. Now, like I say, you have got the chassis. There's 2 locating points for the chassis, just at the bottom by the lower splitter at the front. So make sure your mesh is well clear of there. Don't get any CA glue all over it because they are important mounting points for the body. And there we go. Make sure you're all straight. Make sure there's no glue showing through. As you can see, there's the mesh in place. Absolutely perfect. There we go. Now we can move on to these 2 bonnet vents and get those done and out of the way. So again, cut them off the paper as we did last time, cut them up to the mesh, and you can get them on. Right, so there we go. There's the mesh installed, looking really good. And on the top of the bonnets they're in as well. So we go back to our lights now. These have been drying overnight. As you can see, they dried really well. Nice transparent clear red. I've already cut one off, and then I thought I better show you how I cut the other one off. So we've got our Tamiya sprue cutters. We're going to go right up to the edge of them, trim them off, and then grab a 400 grit UMP thinny stick, the yellow one, and just lightly sand away any of those sanding points. Once you're happy that they're gone, grab a UMP buffer, give it a buff, and we're good to go. Nice and simple cleanup. Like saying, use a hot knife should you wish, but I think you're likely to cause more damage on this because the whole part of this glass can be seen. The points we cut off on the windscreen can't really be seen. So once we're happy we're all cleaned up, we're now going to grab our marker pen, which is an Edding 400 permanent marker. There we go. You can get these on eBay, Amazon, some art shops should sell them, stationers, etc. And it's an old trick. What we're going to do is going to go around all the outer edge of the glass. And when installed, this will simulate the rubber seals on the real car. Now these, I've used Sharpies, I've used others. For me, these were recommended to me. This is the best one I've used. It covers very quickly. It dries super fast. And if you get anywhere you shouldn't, a little bit of UMP clean on a cotton bud gets it off with no problems at all. Now, this is a worthy step to do, as you'll see when I compare both the Subarus later on, because I didn't do this to the original one, and it makes the lights look a bit more realistic and give them a little bit more depth. It takes a couple of minutes. Like I say, this is why you need to make sure the red paint is dry, otherwise you'll be putting fingerprints in it, and it'll be everywhere before you know it. But like I say, it's a step well worth doing if you don't drop it. And it makes the lights look a little bit more realistic and gives a little bit of depth when they're on the model. So go around each part. So you can literally do every piece of light, the headlights, the rear lights, and the lower indicators too. And once they're all covered, we can get going and put them in the car. As I said earlier, if you get a little bit where you shouldn't, as I've slipped on the front indicator, a little bit of Ultimate Modelling Products airbrush cleaner on a cotton bud Q-tip, and you can wipe it off very quickly and very easily. So don't be beating yourself up. If you get it on the back with the paint, you have to be a lot more careful. But at least on the front, it comes off really easy. As you can see, perfect, absolutely spot on. No dramas there at all. Now, we're going to put the lenses in place. Plenty of ways to glue them in. You can use white glue, canopy glue, PVA glue, glue and glaze. Lots of ways of doing it. My favourite way is using Alclad's Aquagloss. So this is the clear coat varnish. I've used a lot of the white glues before, and I found you can see them through the lens when you're done. So again, a very old trick. I can't remember where I picked it up now. But get yourself a nice clean brush, pop the lenses in place, make sure they are correctly orientated and in the right place. Pop them in, there we go. So with using the 2K, you may find that some of these areas now are a little bit tighter than they would be if you hadn't used 2K. 2K is quite a thick varnish, clear coat. So just bear that in mind. Quite often, sometimes the light lenses will hold themselves in. So if that happens, good. Sometimes you can see by this lens here, because of the slight differences in the clear coat and the thickness that's got applied, this one's pinging out a little bit. The other one's sitting in fine. This one's just pinging out a little bit. But once we get it settled and get some aqua gloss on it, it'll hold itself in. So we'll load up our brush, not with masses, but just enough to have it loaded on the brush so the capillary reaction will carry it around the lens. We're not going to worry too much about putting too much on or getting it on the model, because as you saw before, using the UMP cleaner on a Q-tip, cotton bud, we can get the excess off and it doesn't harm the clear plastic or the 2K clear. So the capillary reaction will carry the aqua gloss round. After a couple of minutes this will dry and it's a nice clear glue for holding lenses on. It's quick, it's easy, it's fuss free, and it's an absolutely brilliant tip. I honestly can't remember where I got it from. If I did, I would credit them, because I'm a big believer in that. If you find a tip, credit the person you got it from. I always try and do it if I can, but this works great. I've been doing this for a long time now, and it really does work faultlessly. So, like I say, don't be too worried about getting it in places you shouldn't just yet, because you can get the excess off at the end once it's dried. But for now, make sure everything's in the right place, and just make sure you cover all the areas. Let that capillary reaction carry the varnish around, and it really will glue them in place. Find a little push in place. There we go. And jobs are good. Okay, after it's well and truly dried, we can get our cotton bud with some UMP cleaner on and get rid of any excess varnish that's gone on the bodywork or on the light lens. Always worthwhile keeping a finger on the lens so you don't knock it off in case it hasn't quite dried. If you're not confident, really leave this for a couple of hours to make sure it has dried. Rest assured, if you've used 2K, the clear coat will come off. 2K is very resilient, and a little bit of UMP airbrush cleaner will take it off, no problem at all. But just take your time, don't be too rough, and yeah, be meticulous. As you can see, no problems coming off. It's our nice clear coat, nice and shiny again. Oh, as long as you don't move it like that. Oh, you see. Gotta take your time. Well, once you're in, well, if you're not happy, get it back in. You always put a little bit of aqua gloss back on later. Okay, there we go. There's all of our lights installed. As you can see, adding the black around the edge adds a lot of depth to them. Makes them look a bit more realistic. It's a step well worth doing. Really does look good. Our side repeaters are done as well. Fairly happy with those. I have brush painted those in the past and it didn't go too bad. There's a couple of ways to do it. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to get our glass installed. So, a lot of people ask me how I get my glass so clear. Well, handling it as little as possible. If you do handle it, have a nice cotton cloth to hand to give it a polish and a wipe off. And don't let anything touch it. Don't let any varnishes, thinners, setting solutions, nothing get on there, and you will be just fine. But keeping it clean is the key. So, again, plenty of ways of gluing these in place. You could use aqua gloss if you wanted to. Again, it's going to take a little bit longer and it's got quite a large part to hold. You can use PVA, canopy glue, etc., etc. For me, the easiest way of doing it is using CA glue, as you'll see. But keep it clean, and this should pretty much pay off all the way through the build, and hope at the end you end up with a nice, spotlessly clean glasswork in the car. There we go. So pay attention to this one. There we go, been around twice now, inside and out. Just bear in mind, you have painted insides, don't go mental as you start pulling paint off, and then you start scratching it with the paint particles and what have you. But once you're happy with it, we can then trial fit it in place. I keep a little bit of foam packing that I rest the car on to save scratching the bodywork. So I'm just going to drop it in place. It'll sit naturally in its place. Put a finger in there. Make sure you're in the right spot. And then we can glue it in place. So the key to using the CA glue is glue it where it can't be seen, and you have no chance of any capillary reaction pulling it through the spots that can be seen. CA glue will instantly destroy this glass because you will see it from a mile off. So I will pick a few key points inside, put a couple of little drops on so it just touches the body and the glass. Once I'm happy I've got all the points covered, I'll then come with some CA glue kicker on a micro brush and just touch it to the CA glue. As you see, you get a little blob. We're just touching the edge of the glass, so we get a little bit on the glass and a little bit on the body. And we can put it in each corner of each side, away from any edges or any parts that you're going to see it. And I only ever do it at the top. Never need to do it at the bottom of the windows. Just on the roof part here. And we're going to do it in these 6 points. You see, be very careful. Don't get it on any glass, because trust me, you're not getting it off and that glass is ruined. So there we go. We're now going to grab some super glue kicker. I use the zip kicker, sorry. And what I'll do is I'll spray a little bit into the lid. And then I'll grab one of these little tiny micro brushes. There you go, zip kicker into the lid. Micro brush, you can get these on Amazon, eBay, they're fairly cheap. Very handy for doing this job. So we put it in, we wipe it off, and we just touch it to the CA glue, and it will instantly set it in place, and we are done. Now, don't start wiping the glass now, because if you have any residual CA glue, you will smear it onto the glass. Ask me how I know, because I've done it. And there we are, perfect. All in place, nice and clean, no glue showing, and that can be left to fully dry now. And looking good, just on a double check around. Yeah, we're all in the right place. Happy days, perfect. So there we go. Now we've got our roof scoop and our boot spoiler too. So with the boot spoiler, give it a polish before you get it in, because it's very hard to polish once we get the spoiler on. Make sure it fits in place where it should go. When you're happy with that, take it back off and apply a couple of tiny drops of CA glue just on the outer edge locating points. And then offer it up. Make sure you get it in place where you want it. Make sure you don't get any CA glue on your fingers or any splurging out the side and run down the side of the car. Less is more with CA glue. Now we've got the roof vents. Again, give it a wipe over this cloth. Every time you use this cloth, put it to one side, out the way. Make sure it's nowhere near your CA glue, water, sanding dust, anything at all. Keep it out of the way. And we're just giving it a wipe over now, because again, we can't polish underneath once it's installed. 3 very light blobs of CA glue in the locating points. Pop it on, push it down, make sure it's in place where we want it, and that's it. Leave it to be, let it dry properly, and we are good to go. And there we go. That is the body essentially back all completed. All that's left to do is we have the bonnet pins to paint in the chrome silver, which we'll use the pen for again. And we've got our antennas to do as well. Now, what I tend to do with the bonnet pins is leave them until after I've polished and waxed all the car, because the nature of Molotow is quite delicate and it will rub off quite easily. Okay, so the wing mirrors, these have been primed in UMP black primer, then given a few coats of Tamiya TS14 black. Then got over them with some Tamiya TS13 gloss coat, just to make them nice and glossy. And now we're going to glue them in place. First off, we need to put the inserts inside the mirrors. So back to the sprues, you've got 2 little wing mirror inserts, which are there. They need cutting off, tidying up, and then we can CA glue them in place. A little bit of careful snipping. Off we come. You need a little bit of light sanding, and then we can get them in place and then paint them silver. Again, several ways you can do it. You can airbrush them now before you put them on, and then glue them in place. You can use bare metal foil. You can brush paint them, or the quickest way I do it is using a Molotow pen once they're installed in place. I've found with having to manipulate them in place, you damage the paintwork. So I find it better to paint them once they're in. So make sure you get the correct one for the correct mirror. Takes a little bit of orientation to figure out which way around they go. We'll get there in the end. Once you're happy, just test fit it, make sure it all fits in place fine. There we go, we're happy with that. Get it back out. A little dab of CA glue. There's a little ledge on the inside where it sits, so just a little dab on there. Make sure you get the correct one again. Pop it in place. Use the reverse end of the cocktail stick to push it fully home, and then let that dry. And there we go. You then come in with your Molotow pen. We've got the 2mm one again, our liquid chrome Molotow pen, and we're going to very delicately and carefully paint the mirror silver. So like I say, there's multiple ways of doing it, but I find this the quickest and the easiest. These pens are very, very useful. Absolute godsend, to be honest. And there we go. Jobs are good. So let that dry a minute or two. The only problem is it doesn't really dry. It takes forever to dry, and it is very delicate. So when you start handling the mirror now, and we need to make sure we've got it orientated the correct way on the vehicle. So a quick reference to the box art and the instructions to figure out which side this mirror is for. Once you've done that, pull it off the cocktail stick. It's only push fitted in. I drilled into the side of the mirror and just put the cocktail stick through. Tiny dab of CA glue. Now, if you're not confident with the CA glue on the glass, you can use PVA glue, canopy glue, etc., etc. But this is instant grab, and as long as you're confident with it, you're not going to make a mess. But if you aren't confident, don't use it. Use some white glue, which is a bit slower setting and a bit more user-friendly too. So just pop it in place. Another little tip, before you start pushing through from the other side, have a look, because some of these cars have little holes where the wing mirrors go, and I've had CA glue pop through before. But there we go. There's the wing mirror on. All we need to do now is repeat for the other side, and we are done. Okay, next up we've got our window wipers. So these again have been primed to UMP black primer. They've then been painted in Tamiya X18 gloss, semi-gloss black. We're going to super glue these in place again. Again, give the screen a nice light rub over where anything's going to go. So we've got a decal to go with the upper part of the screen, which we're going to deal with in the next part. But for today, we've got the window wipers, so make sure where these sit is nice and clean so you don't damage them later on trying to clean. Now, they are specific which side they go on, so make sure you use your instructions as reference. A little tiny blob of CA glue. There's a hole for them. Pop it in, get them in the right place on the screen, hold it for a sec, and there we go. Easy and simple. Again, if you're not confident with the CA glue, use some white glue, because if you slip and get it on the screen, it looks awful. So really take your time. I'm quite confident with my modelling skills with this. So CA glue will do the job for me. And just look where they go on screen on the instructions. And there we go. Spot on. So there you go. That's where we're at today. Like I said, we've got one more part to get done. I didn't want to leave it. It was an hour long. It was a little bit too long. And by the time I added the final reveal, it would have been like an hour and 15 minutes long. It's too long. So break them up into 2 parts and we'll get it done. So there we go. So we'll be back next week to get it finished off, all done and dusted. And yeah, let's see what this thing looks like all completed. So there we go. So thanks for watching today. As always, check out the International Model Facebook page and forum. Check out the umpretail.com site as well, myself and Lee's business. All the links in the description down below. Check out my Paul ISM Facebook page where all my personal modelling work goes. Check out the Modelling Hangout group and check out the Live at the Bench group as well. And there we are. So thanks for watching. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, pop them in the comment section down below. I always reply to the best of my ability. And like I say, if you've got any questions, I'll try and answer them if I haven't answered them in the video. So there we go. So I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.